Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Like tonight's film, this is 1989's mystifying Blu Vengeance. 1989's Blu Vengeance right here, folks. Got some screenshots in the back. Hard to see a little bit. This is put out by Vinegar Syndrome on Blu-ray and DVD. This is some artwork on the front here. There's also reversible artwork, I believe, as well. This is a film I never heard of before, and one that definitely seemed extremely intriguing to me. This is something, as it says on the back here, a strange mashup of horror and action film. Wow. And that's even an understatement. Blu Vengeance is really, it's its unique own beast of a film. And it's going to attract a lot of different people to it as well, into this fascinating 1989 world. It says in the back here, it combines gory killings with drug-addled underground rock club scenes and corrupt police procedure that's set in the gritty world of late 80s New York. You go to Times Square, the infamous music club CBGB's. It's all here, folks. Let's get into Blu Vengeance. I have some notes written down below, so you might see my eyes divert. Blu Vengeance takes these worlds and puts them together. Heavy metal, Satanism, street trash vibes, the movie Street Trash, male and female vamp chemistry. I'm talking about the 80s film Vamp with Grace Jones in it, the chemistry between the two leads, the male and the female, the two young people. That type of chemistry between the male and female chemistry from Vamp to Blu Vengeance. New York City grit, police drama, punk, and I already said heavy metal, punk, vengeance, revenge, and prison. It's all here, folks, and more. Blu Vengeance is the kind of film that takes the concept of genre and just kicks it out the window. It does what it wants, yet it's a beautiful product of the time and the world and the time and the location and the time that it was created in. The music in here, of course, is going to reflect punk. It's going to reflect fogged out rooms of heavy metal. And we're going to have a time where we actually visit CBGB's, okay? And we even have score through this film as well. So I wanted to mention the score for Blu Vengeance is very, very interesting because at times it mimics the actual soundtrack of the film, which has some kind of 80s rock orchestrated type of elements and some kind of dramatic elements and some fantastic fantasy-like elements, some stuff that almost sounds like an RPG game. But then there's also a very dark, oppressive, synth electronic type score orchestrated. I will tell you, the beginning of this movie will completely throw you into what the hell crazy world you're about to enter into. The opening credit title sequence of this film is powerful, oppressive, weird, bizarre, surreal, horrific, and really just what the hell is going on. There's you have all these different elements of this film with the occult and music and the city, but you also have this other element of the mind and the power of the mind. And when you put that in a mix all together, you get the cacophony that is Blu Vengeance. And this is a movie that you think of kind of the 80s heavy metal films like Black Roses and Rock and Roll Nightmare. Well, you have that world, but then you also have the punk world as well. The Fabulous Stains, Suburbia, things like that. You're going to have that punk world. Even, Abel Ferrara's films, that type of vibe. Unbelievable camera work in this film. The camera angles galore. Okay, Mondo camera angles. You really get to see what low-budget camera punk intensity can be. It does not matter what your budget is. take heed when you watch this film on the camera work, on the cinematography, on the outrageously wild and inventive and creative camera angles in this film. Look at the ground up shots, the shots from the ground up, really, really intense and interesting. They even allow stuff to get in the way of the camera as well in this movie. We get the New York City gritty language in this film. Like I said, it's like you're meshing these worlds of an Abel Ferrara film and, you know, Black Roses or something, and an occult film, you know, even more directly. And action, as it says in the back of the case that I read. There are lots of characters in Blu Vengeance, and there's actually, for a film like this, you would not expect a running time this long. It's actually 103 minutes. I mean, typically films like this, you would expect them to be shorter. This has a longer running time. There is something very fascinating about this film, even from the get-go. You're going to discover fantasy and occult sequences versus New York City. How do you bring those worlds together? How do you bring those worlds together? This is how you bring it together in Blu Vengeance. Guerrilla filmmaking, amazing guerrilla filmmaking. You know, we're in real streets, real clubs, real trains, real back alleys, real cars, apartments. This is just, you're really there, and the lead character in this film is fascinating. There's an element of dangerous vibes to him, which he should have anyway. Total product of 1989 as well. We have very serious acting in this film. An old metal band with evil imagery, you know, on tape. Very, very cool. A bizarre suicide in this movie. Darkness, both gritty and real, and also fantastic, from the fantasy genre. So we have two different types of darkness in this film, you know, gritty and fantasy. It's a violent movie, but without much gore. But when the gore happens, you see enough to make it effective and to kind of send you reeling a bit. I mean, this is a mashup film of horror, crime, occult, New York City police, and action. And there are twists and turns, and there's wild pacing. And there's even something that happens with the camera in this film where it reminded me of the original Evil Dead, you know, the original Evil Dead, and even Evil Dead 2, where kind of a car kind of zooming backwards. You know, these wild, again, extremely wild punk camera shots and angles, you know, kind of like zooming backwards. And it kind of gave me those vibes, you know, when Ash from Evil Dead was, you know, flying through the air or something in the movies. Blu Vengeance, it's rough, it's raw, it's nasty, but it's also for the Dungeons and Dragons crowd as well. And that makes it extremely, extremely unique. This is Blu Vengeance, folks, from 1989, from Vinegar Syndrome. Wow, wow, wow. This is something special here, folks. You can bring the Dungeons and Dragons, horror, heavy metal, and the punk crowd and the video game crowd all together in one with this film. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more, like Blu Vengeance. Please feel free to check out my own personal films on youtube.com/poopy diarrhea. That's Poopy. Thank you so much, and good night.